a really incredible sort of game that happened recently with the administration. Remember a couple weeks ago, there was that New York Times report that several members of the Trump campaign had been in communication with Russia during the campaign. And this was vociferously denied by Reince Priebus on the February 19th version of Fox News Sunday with Chris Wallace. This is a pretty long clip. I don't know if we're going to play all 4 minutes of it, but you'll notice that he's saying that the New York Times story is garbage. And he knows it's garbage because even as he is saying that anonymous sources are terrible and the bane of existence, he has an anonymous source that has told him that the story is garbage. I think now we know who that anonymous source is.
You say that the intelligence community says that there were no contacts between anyone in the Trump campaign, any associate of Mr. Trump, and anybody involved as a Russian agent as to the campaign and collusion in the campaign with Russia. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, they told me, absolutely. They have made it very clear that that story in the New York Times is complete garbage. And quite frankly, they use different words than that, okay?
Who was it that said that?
And when I read back,
who was it that said that to you?
I'm not going to tell you.
Well, wait a minute.
Tell you that.
Wait a minute, Reince. You're just complained about unnamed sources. You're using an unnamed source.
Well, because I didn't ask for approval to use their name, but I will tell you this. When I say top-level people, I mean top-level people, okay?
So no collusion whatsoever between anybody involved with Trump and anybody involved with Russia in the 2016 campaign?
No. And if you look at Devin Nunes's comments in the actual paper on the
Chairman of the House Intelligence Committee.
He was briefed by the FBI, and what did he do? He turned around and went on the record and said that this story is complete garbage.
Okay, but here's the problem.
So here we are.
Reince, wait a minute. Here's the problem. I don't have any problem with you complaining about an individual story. We sometimes get it wrong. You guys sometimes get it wrong. I don't have any problem with you complaining about bias, but you went a lot further than that, or the president went a lot further than that. He said that the fake media, not certain stories, the fake media are an enemy to the country. We don't have a state-run media in this country. That's what they have in dictatorships.
Okay, listen, Chris. It's not just two stories. Then it's followed up by 24 hours a day, 7 days a week of other cable stations, not necessarily Fox, that all day long on every chyron, every 7 minutes are talking about Russian spies, talking about the intelligence community, talking about how me and Steve Bannon don't like each other and what's Kellyanne doing. All this just total garbage, unsourced stuff. Listen, there's nothing wrong with background. Reporters need background information. We need to communicate with reporters and give reporters context. All I'm saying, though, is if you're going to come out with this, if you're going to come out with this story that says Russian spies are talking to your campaign, my God. I mean, you actually, I think you should, in some cases, or in most cases, actually have a named source. Look what we've done. We've repealed TPP. We have signed a coal bill to save the coal industry. We named Neil Gorsuch. We put an executive order in to deregulate the federal government.
All of that.
There's so many things I can talk about.
Wait a minute. We and all of the other cable channels had covered live the announcement of Neil Gorsuch and covered live a lot of these other events. Covered live for an hour and 15 minutes. The president's news conference. Here's the problem: when the president says that we're the enemy of the American people, it makes it sound like if you're going against him, you're going against the country.
Here's the problem, Chris. The problem is that you're right. Some of these things were covered. But you get about 10% coverage on the fact you did a very successful meeting with Bibi Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of the UK, the Prime Minister of Canada.
We covered all of those news conferences live. Everybody did.
Right, sure. Yeah, for about, yeah, right. But then as soon as it was over, the next 20 hours is all about Russian spies.
But you don't get to tell us what to do, right?
Nothing's happening.
You don't get to tell us what to do any more than Barack Obama did. Barack Obama whined about Fox News all the time, but I got to say, he never said that we were an enemy of the people.
Let me tell you something. He said a lot of things about Fox News, Chris. I think you ought to go check the tape.
Yeah, Fox News can eat a big fat D. Sometimes you got to take the D. So, Reince Priebus being like, I like that. It's just like, yeah, complete garbage. He's less comfortable lying, though he does it just as often as other members of the administration. But this is really important. So now what we know is that Sean Spicer of Melissa Carthy impression fame, the White House, beady-eyed White House press secretary, was in direct communication with CIA Director Mike Pompeo, Intelligence Committee Chair Richard Burr, and House Intelligence Committee Chairman David Nunes. He was pushing them to come out, and of course Nunes did. We know that Nunes tweeted it out. And Reince called the FBI, personally asking Comey to come out and say that the Russia story was untrue. Kind of amazing. I think the FBI already has done enough for the Trump administration. So that basically Reince there, when he's talking about an anonymous source, by all appearances, talking about Sean Spicer. They're quoting themselves to discredit anonymous sources about the Russia story. And, you know, this is the Cheney game. Cheney would be a source for Judith Miller lying about Iraqi WMDs. She would report it, and then he would go and meet the press.
It's in the papers.
And he would be like, it's reported in the papers. And then he would essentially quote himself. So in that sense, actually, this game of fake news and lying has a long history. And it certainly, at the very least, goes back to the Bush administration, which I just want to take this parenthetical opportunity to say, anybody who is wishing for George W. Bush, let's not let this horror totally degrade our standards, okay?
By the way, the other difference is also that when the Cheney admin
Yes.
was leaking stuff, it wasn't revealed that it was leaking stuff the same
real
week that it was
time.
leaking stuff.
It wasn't like it was like there's WMDs in Iraq, and then 2 seconds later it's like actually you and Andy Card hate each other, and that isn't true. Yes, this administration does have a kind of sort of politic level of incompetence.
Hey, it's Sam Seder. Why don't you subscribe to this channel? You can do so right over here. Subscribe.